production of quality commercial coffee is not an easy matter, as formation of physical, chemical and organoleptic characteristics of beans are influenced by various factors at every stage of production.
Quality is a summative index of raw, roast and liquor characteristics of coffee. The quality is going to be influenced by many factors like genetic, the environmental factors, the preparatory methods like in which way we process the coffee and all this.
Coffee is processed either by wet method or by dry method to produce washed coffee and unwashed coffee respectively. The wet processed coffee is superior in quality, and this method is predominantly followed in processing India's Arabica coffee, which is around 75%, and part of Robusta, that is 15%. In most of the Arabica coffee producing countries, wet process is followed. However, exceptions being Brazil and Ethiopia, which largely use the dry process. A very large amount of Robusta is dry processed, again with important exceptions. In Indonesia and Angola, Robustas are wet processed. Wet processed coffee is appreciated the world over and they command substantial premiums.
Harvesting the right type of fruits is an essential stage in production of quality coffee. Coffee fruits are to be picked as and when they become ripe. In Arabica, 31 to 35 weeks after blossom showers, the fruits start ripening, and in Robusta, it takes 40 to 45 weeks. The duration between initiation of ripening to overripe stage is around 10 to 14 days. To ensure good quality coffee, only ripe cherries are harvested by selective picking.
For production of top quality coffee, we'll have to go for selective picking of fruits. Greens are not picked. That has to be sorted out at the drying yard. The presence of green, it will produce grassy taste, and also the over-ripened berries also, it will induce over-fermented taste, or it produces foxy taste in the final cup.
This operation requires a large workforce, which is often difficult to find. So at times, strip picking is also carried out. By this method, fruits of various stages of ripeness are harvested. Like unripe, green-yellow, ripened and overripe brown cherries.
In the dry process, the entire cherry is dried directly, immediately after harvest. The outer skin dries out to form the husk, which is then removed mechanically during hulling. The harvested cherries, containing moisture of 65% in most cases, are subjected to sun drying. Spread to a thickness around 4 to 8 centimeters with periodic stirring at least 4 to 5 times a day. The cherry coffee needs to be protected from rehydration at night or by rains. Drying in the sun takes 12 to 15 days depending on the thickness of the layers, the ambient temperature and the amount of daily sunshine. It is preferable to initially dry coffee on trays for 2 to 3 days and later on drying patios. Drying coffee on bare ground or cow dung smeared earth is highly inadvisable, as the cherries become tainted by dust and earth and acquire an earthy smell as well as taste. Drying is complete when the moisture content of the bean is around 11 to 12%. At this stage, the beans rattle when shaken.
The different divisions they have carried out the research work on processing of coffee to a very limited extent. Like the botany, it has carried out in its own sphere, like genetic aspects of quality. Agronomy, the cross husbandry practices, how it is affecting the quality. The chemistry, it worked on how to process the coffee on the farm. The on-farm processing methods have been standardized in all this. Physiology, of course, they concentrated on biochemical aspects of coffee. It was a long felt need that the post-harvest technology division should be established at CCRI. So, under 9th plan, we have proposed for the establishment of post-harvest technology division. We have started working on post-harvest technology. Study of existing harvesting and post-harvesting practices and evolving improved methods of harvesting, sorting, grading, pulping, washing, drying and storing for quality improvement. Normally, at the growers level, they deviate from the normal standard procedure what we recommend. It has got a direct bearing on quality of coffee.
In wet processing, berries of mixed stages of maturity and ripeness will cause pulping and fermentation problems. The harvested cherry should be sorted prior to pulping to remove immature, disease, pest-fested dry berries and also leaves, twigs and other extraneous matter. It is also necessary to remove small berries which will escape pulping. The sorted berries have to be processed by the alternative dry method. Only fully ripe and matured berries which have adequate mucilage and natural pectinolytic enzymes are to be taken for wet processing of coffee. Pulping is dependent on lubrication from the mucilage layer between the pulp and parchment. Pulping is done by using a stream of water which carries berries to the pulper, and it also facilitates in separation of products and byproducts. There are two types of pulpers, namely disc pulper and drum pulper. The disc pulper is the common type of pulper that is in use in India. Recently, vertical type pulper, called Penagos, is also being used in India. Studies were conducted to assess their suitability to pulp Arabica and Robusta, and also for the water usage. These two models were found to take a fruit load of 850 kg and 2,200 kg per hour with a power requirement of 1.5 horsepower. The water requirement was around 3 liters for every kilogram of fruit, as against the conventional horizontal pulper, which used 6 liters per kilogram of fruit. Outturn of the wet parchment was 45 to 47%, compared to the conventional pulper with a value of 43 to 45%. Robusta coffee pulping was not satisfactory, as 30 to 35% of skins were associated with a pulp for beans.
Actually, the improved coffee pulper and washers developed by the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, Coimbatore, they are suitable for both Arabica and Robusta coffee. These improvements made in these equipments involve certain replacement of the hardware items with soft materials like nylon and other rubber materials, which results in savings in water and energy. And also it aims to reduce the cut beans and naked beans available in the coffee washers. And these improved equipments are mostly suitable for small and medium growers.
And with this fund given by the CCRI, we are developing a improved pulper cum washer for the benefit of the coffee growers in the Karnataka region.
For wet method of processing, we use large quantity of water for production of high quality coffee. We use a lot of clean water for this purpose. So in the process, the water itself, it will get polluted because of the dissolved as well as the suspended organics. When this wastewater find their way to any natural water bodies, it affects the quality of the water bodies particularly. So in view of this, we have programmed to evolve a suitable cost viable coffee effluent treatment technology. As early as 1980s, along with NERI, in a collaborative study, we have developed a two-stage biological treatment method for coffee effluent treatment. In this we have the anaerobic lagoon, two anaerobic lagoons rather, and followed by the aerated lagoon. Of course, these methods are it is not cost effective. It needs a lot of initial investment on treatment plant, and many of the growers they have not adopted, and that's why we have programmed now to evolve a suitable, a cost viable treatment technology for coffee effluent.
The pectin-degrading enzymes, which are inherent to mucilage itself, hydrolyze in about 24 to 36 hours for Arabica and 72 hours for Robusta. The rate of degradation of mucilage depends on the location and ambient temperature. Over-fermentation induces onion flavor defect in the coffee. Fermentation is complete when parchment feels gritty and no longer sticky when rubbed between the hands. For acceleration of mucilage degradation, pectinolytic enzymes are to be used to hasten the fermentation process. The recommended dose of biocoffeezyme is about 350 to 750 grams per ton of Arabica fruits for a contact time of 12 hours at 20 degrees Celsius ambient temperature with occasional agitation. A solution of 10 liters of sodium hydroxide is required for 1200 kilograms of pulped beans to process Arabica and Robusta. A contact time of 30 minutes and 60 minutes is required for hydrolyzing the mucilage in Arabica and Robusta respectively. The process should be closely monitored by hand feel method within the time frame. The use of sodium hydroxide, however, presents various problems in practice. In this method, the pulped parchment is directly fed to the machine called aqua washer, in which the mucilage is removed by mechanical scrubbing or friction and washed by a jet of water. Production of naked and bruised beans can be avoided by carefully adjusting the flow rate of seed, adjusting the gap between stationary cylinder and inner rotating cylinder, and also fine adjustment of the floodgate system. Sorting of fruits into different sizes and uniform feeding through siphon arrangement will rectify this defect. The percentage cuts or bits normally produced in aqua-washed coffee is around 2 to 4%. Pre-fermentation of pulped coffee for 12 hours in case of Arabica and 24 to 36 hours in case of Robusta is desirable before letting into aqua washer for effective removal of mucilage. Soaking refers to complete immersion of washed parchment under clean water for a period of 8 to 12 hours. Soaking greatly improves the color of the coffee and raises the quality. The coffee should be agitated during soaking. To soak around 2,700 kilograms of wet parchment, equivalent to 1 metric ton of clean coffee, around 2,000 liters of clean water is required.
Prolonged cherry storage prior to pulping results in stinker taste. Cherries should be processed immediately or within 10 to 16 hours after harvest. Should not be kept in water for more than 24 hours under certain conditions during pulping. Poorly regulated pulper damages the parchment, facilitating microbial attack and contamination. Ferric ions of 5 milligrams per liter concentration in water induces metallic flavor in coffee. Polluted water having dissolved organic matter causes foul flavors. Beans fermented and washed in dirty water retain muddy or earthy odor. Drying is an important and tricky stage in coffee preparation. It contributes greatly to the quality of the end product and can prove detrimental to quality if not carried out correctly. It may be emphasized that proper drying contributes to the healthy color of the bean and other quality factors. Underdrying leads to rapid deterioration of beans. It turns moldy and gets bleached during storage and subsequent operations. The wet parchment coffee has a water content of around 50 to 55%, and this has to be brought down to 10% for safe storage. At this moisture level, enzymatic activity and mold growth is at a minimum. As soon as coffee is washed, the excess water should be drained on a specially constructed drainage platform. Drying of surface moisture on the beans should be carried out as quickly as possible. Surface drying is carried out in trays with wire mesh bottom. These trays may be mounted on wooden poles at a height of 75 to 90 centimeters above floor level. The parchment is spread in trays to a thickness of about 4 to 7 centimeters. The coffee may be turned repeatedly to facilitate quick drying and to prevent cracking of parchment skin. Surface drying on trays may be carried out for 24 to 48 hours. A tray of 1.75 into 1.75 meters with 7 centimeters height side walls can hold 3 faulties of parchment or cherry. Drying yard requirement for drying 1,000 kilograms clean coffee for different thicknesses are: parchment equivalent 4 centimeter spread equals to 9.5 into 9.5 meters. Parchment equivalent 7 centimeter spread equals to 7.3 into 7.3 meters. Cherry equivalent 7 centimeter spread 11 into 11 meters. At any cost, this coffee should not be dried on mud and cow dung smeared drying yard, as it induces off flavors. Drying at this stage should be steady and continuous. Stirring and turning over coffee once in an hour is necessary to facilitate uniform drying. It is desirable to keep coffee covered on the third and fourth day of drying during the hottest part of the day, that is 12 to 2:30 p.m., to avoid cracking of parchment. If the parchment is spread too thin, rapid drying takes place and causes the parchment skin to split, leading to shrunken and boat-shaped bean. The parchment should be heaped up in the evening and kept covered until the next morning. Sun drying of parchment coffee takes about 7 to 8 days under bright weather conditions. At the right stage of dryness, the parchment becomes crumbly. Now ready for test weighing.
Coffee left to improper drying conditions like thick layers, inadequate stirring or homogenization, rehydration by mist or rain, results in mold or bacterial growth that causes earthy tastes. Many molds releases mycotoxins which are harmful to human health. In coffee routine, analysis for aflatoxins is being conducted to check the contamination as per the insistence of the importing countries. Chances of black bean production is also high under such conditions from unripened berries, which give hard and sour liquors. Over-drying of coffee to a moisture level of 8% will result in marked loss in quality.
The dried parchment or cherry coffee should be bagged in clean jute bags. It is important that coffee is evenly and properly dried before storage at farm level, otherwise discoloration and mustiness will develop, which reduce the market value. Stores should be kept ventilated and dry without letting in moisture or rainwater. The bags should be stored on a raised wooden platform separately in separate compartments. Other crops like cardamom, pepper, and materials like fertilizer, pesticides, etc. should not be stored in the same room. Generally, Arabica coffee storage on farms affect the quality adversely as its cupping quality deteriorates rapidly. Robusta can be stored for longer periods than Arabica as it is resilient to incorrect storage conditions and its cupping quality deteriorates less rapidly. No dry cherry or parchment should be stored on the farm for more than 1 year.
Of late, most of the coffee importing countries, they are putting a lot of restrictions on pesticide residue and also on mycotoxins presence in coffee. In view of that, we have proposed study on pesticide residue and mycotoxin contamination in coffee. We are planning to conduct a survey to what extent the pesticide residue and the mycotoxins are present in coffee. While processing coffee, you get a lot of skin. This is the skin, what you get, and the coffee effluent also, and the parchment husk, the husk, all these. These are the waste products. Waste utilization and production of value-added products assumes a greater importance in view of environment protection and also partly recovering part of the treatment costs of this waste. As you know, as you are aware, that the training program in any crop in regard to its quality it assumes a lot of importance. We are planning to train growers in this aspect, like how to produce quality coffee at the estate level. What are the steps that has to be adopted to improve the quality of coffee?
In the light of the growing competition and demand for quality products in the international as well as domestic markets, there is a necessity for production of high quality coffee.